And so with that, I'd like to invite Toma to come up onto the couch.
Hey, Toma!
And we're going to have a little interview. Are you ready?
No.
No. She's going to... If we ever have a moment where Toma looks doubtful, just give her a clap. She's going to do great. I know that.
There'll be a lot of claps now.
She's going to do great. She has a lot of really valuable stuff to share with us. And what we're really going to do is take this time to focus not just on Ukraine itself, but on sort of what happens with faith to faith outside of the borders of the U.S. and sometimes how what happens outside comes back. So Toma, I want to start by giving you the opportunity to just introduce yourself, who you are, tell us a little bit about your family, where you're from.
So my name's Toma, or Tamara, or Tamar, it's a biblical name. I'm from Ukraine, I was born in Ukraine and live in Ukraine, married to a wonderful man called Oleg. He's a pastor now. He's been a pastor for a year, almost 2 years, and now when the war broke out, he became a chaplain ministry. He was a chaplain. He became a chaplain, military chaplain. And I have two daughters. We have two daughters, Anna and Mary. We live now in our own house, big house.
Recently expanded house.
Yeah, recently expanded house, and we love to host people in our house. So God gave us an opportunity to have a special guest room, and but when we didn't have a guest room, and when Kyle would come, he'd stay in our kitchen, on our couch, which wasn't very comfortable, but still our hearts were open to host him, and and not only Kyle.
Yeah, so Toma is a person who generally exudes happiness, even at things that others might find very mundane and boring. For Toma, this is very exciting. And I've always really appreciated from Toma that I think she really sees God's hand and artistry and everything, and it just brings such a joy and passion to her, even to things that a lot of us maybe miss. I think Toma sees that. And I've always appreciated being around Toma because she is so cheerful. And they're great hosts. And it's a lot of fun to go visit. So, if you're ever bored, hop on a plane. We'll get you into Ukraine. And
you're just guys more than welcome. We have a lot of space in our house, and it's my dream.
You should be warned, though. There are chickens.
That are not allowed to be eaten because they're pets.
They're very useless chickens. They don't lay eggs, really.
They do in summer when it's really, really hot.
They can't be eaten.
Yeah, they cannot.
And they just are there.
Yeah. So whenever Kyle comes, I tell them, girls, go and hide because this guy is going to eat you.
So, Toma, tell us a little bit about what a normal day looks like for you now.
Generally, my Instagram profile says Toma Mama Doma, which means in Ukrainian, Toma Mama at home. So, my day is I spend my days at home because I work at home, my girls are homeschooled, and we host Bible groups at home. People love to come to our house. We are rarely invited to someone else's house, but people love coming to us, and that was the answer.
Yes, you answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a nod, please.
Good job.
Okay, good.
Hey guys, clap.
Don't do it.
So I want to ask probably a little bit of a more difficult question, because surely life looks a little bit different now today than it did before the war started nearly 4 years ago. So can you explain some of the differences that you and your family encounter on a day-to-day or weekly basis between pre-war and during the war?
I'd say we got more people in our life. We used to minister teenagers and young people in my town, but when the war broke out, we got a lot of refugees, like IDPs, in our town. And,
internally displaced people.
Internally displaced people, and because we have there is a university in our town, and there are dorms, and so there was space just to put them, to give them like tiny rooms, and so there are a lot of them in my town, and it's interesting that the dorms are just situated not next to the church, to our church, and so our church started ministering to the refugees just within the first days of the war, though I was not in Ukraine, but when I came back, I just was also involved in the ministry, and so I think like we got in touch with people's lives. I mean, we weren't like we were involved, but these are stories that are so heartbreaking. So I'd say like more people got into our life, and I live in a town which wasn't bombed or attacked directly, but we may wake up in the middle of the night because of the bombs flying or drones being hit, and so that's the reality.
Yeah, and although nothing has hit in the town where they live, it has nearby.
Yeah, nearby, yes, but just I'm talking about my town.
You also face nearly daily power outages.
Oh yeah, that's a new thing for us. So I think that was the first winter when the war broke out, and because Russians attack our electricity stations, are they called power stations? We get outages like pretty often. We did not have gas in our house, so when there is an electricity outages, it means we cannot cook. But we are inventive now. We have a small gas stove, and so in case it goes off, we can cook. And we have a nice, thanks God, because we planned our house ourselves, so we have a nice fireplace. So let's say stove, and so we can get warm, like we can stay warm. But most of the people who live in apartment buildings, that's a huge problem for them. So so we need to adjust our lives to, let's say, to the shifts, electricity shifts that we have. It means like you have to plan what time to leave your house, what time to come back so that you can cook or something.
And it even affects the ministry that happens in the area. When I was there in November, we had a program for kids, and we had to end at a certain time before the power was going to be rationed, because it was going to be too dark outside for the kids to go home.
Yeah, sure.
So we're going to talk more about the war, but I want to maybe zoom out and start kind of at the beginning of your relationship with Faith to Faith. And I want to start by asking you, do you remember what your first interaction was with the Faith to Faith team, and how was that?
So you were my first interaction, but I didn't know, like, back at time that was like you were the part of a team, a face-to-face team. You were just the friend who my friend brought to Ukraine to show around my town. But then, again, there were you again in Israel, and then I learned that you're a part of a face-to-face ministry. And then what I remember after like our trip to Israel, because we brought teenagers to the camp, and there was we were invited by you and Face to Face to Poland to bring the same kids to one more camp. And so that was, I don't remember, that was 2019, where I met Tom, and for the first time, and Andrew, yes, and Andrew, I met Andrew twice actually in 2 camps, and but I didn't get to talk a lot with Tom, like I think during that camp. Probably we built our relationships more when you guys came to Ukraine, to Charkiv, And I remember Tom, me and my husband, Tom was sharing about the ministry and how it all started, and how he was building the structure. My comprehension skills were not so good back at time, so I just missed the part of it. But I was like marveled, like, oh, cool, this must be something like interesting and for the glory of God, and how passionately he was like sharing his vision and what he was doing.
Yeah, so in Poland we have Regeneration Camp, and that's where they were invited to come. And then we had a little pause for COVID, and we decided during COVID we couldn't bring Ukrainians to us, so we were going to go to them. Cool. So we brought a team, Andrew, Tom, and a couple others into Ukraine, and we did camp in Ukraine, and that's what Toma is talking about. That's where she got to really meet Tom and understand the ministry on a deeper level. And that was the summer right before the war started.
Right. Yeah, there were also planes flying and helicopters, and we didn't know that something terrible is supposed to happen.
So as those first interactions and impressions took place, did you ever think that you would end up a part of that team, this team?
No. Like when Tom was sharing, I was like, oh, that must be something like just far-fetched from you. Like, I will not be able to reach that or be like part of it. No, I didn't.
So how do you think you built trust in order to join us? Sorry.
I think I was probably just faithful in tiny things I was entrusted with. That's it. I translated properly, I guess.
I mean, we wouldn't know. We didn't understand Ukrainian.
Yeah. I was doing my best to bring to guys what Tom was sharing about, and I do remember what he was preaching back at that time in Ochakiv about green thumb. Yeah, and God's hands are so far away, so He is able to reach people who get lost. So it was a cool camp. So probably like I think faithfulness in just tiny things entrusted to me.
Nice. So fast forward about 6 months from that camp. I had just been in Ukraine, including with Toma and her family, and a winter camp there.
Yeah.
Just the January before the war started, and we had even had some conversations like,
that was December, right?
December, January, something.
Yeah.
What might happen if this invasion that's being talked about happens? And so I want to ask you, as the war began in February, where were you? What went through your mind? How did that affect you? I know it might be hard a little bit, but what were those first moments like?
It was Thursday. I planned my day on Wednesday night, went to bed. I scheduled classes. The earliest one was supposed to be at 9 a.m. And it started, I guess, at 5 a.m. I love to sleep in the morning. That's why I woke up probably at 7. And when I woke up, well, you shouldn't have asked that question. So, we heard... Just breathe in. Yeah. We heard that word war. It started like... we couldn't believe it, like it's going to happen. And like we didn't know what it looks like. Oh yeah, I wasn't supposed to cry. Oh, Sailor, I told you. Okay, I'm fine. Yeah, so we heard that word war, like my husband read the news, and he said it started. And I don't remember clearly what was happening that day. We had friends from Kyiv because they were fleeing from Kiev because Kiev was heavily attacked. What I clearly remember that day, we were sleeping in our clothes. And so for you to understand, I am such a neat freak. I love things to be tidy in my house, but that day, it didn't matter. People were wearing shoes in our house, and it was messy. So the next, I don't remember how we slept that night, but the next day, you just called Oksana, and you said that you opened the refugee center in Poland, and so we can come. And my husband was so actively involved in helping, and so within the first hours he just disappeared. And so on Friday he made the decision that we should go to Poland, and so he asked our friend to bring us to the border.
So, actually, my first phone call also came from their town, from one of her English students and someone who had come to camp named Roma. And he called me moments after it started in Ukraine, so it was around 4 in the morning in Poland. And I don't actually know what he wanted. I don't think he knew what he wanted, but he said, there's missiles going over our house. And shortly after that, I called my friend, who's Ukrainian, a colleague who is in Ukraine and in Poland, and checked on her family. Her brother's a soldier, and then we talked with the director of the camp that we're partnered with in Ukraine in Poland, and said can we open the camp and bring a few people? That's pretty much how the conversation went.
A few people.
Because we don't know what else to do. They need somewhere to go, and so. We'll talk about the refugee center, but the context of that is the camp was closed, there was no food, it was cold, and the first bus showed up at our doorstep within 36 hours of the war starting, and that bus had 32 people on it. 2 of them were over the age of 18, and the rest were kids that their parents sent. So that they could stay and help, and that we could take care of their kids. Yeah. Toma showed up within it also that she had some border problems.
I also have border problems.
But she showed up within 2 days, I believe.
No, I just spent 2 days and a half on the border.
Yeah.
Standing in a line.
In the snow, in the winter.
Yeah. Ran out of food. Oh, that was terrible.
In all honesty, my friend and I received a couple of phone calls from Toma. Emotional phone calls, I'm not going to come, I'm going to go back. And, we strongly encouraged her to persevere and make it through because we didn't know what it was going to be like in Ukraine.
No one.
But Toma made it, and her friend and mine was able to host her in her home instead of at the refugee center. But Toma quickly became a key member of our team at the refugee center because Toma speaks Ukrainian. And she speaks Russian, which a lot of the refugees spoke, and English. And so we didn't let Toma have a lot of processing time and kind of put her to work. But I think it was a blessing for her as well.
That was such a distraction, and it helped me more than I just probably helped people.
And so I guess I'd like to ask, from your perspective, what was it like working in and around the refugee center and watching what was happening? Because you showed up when there was about 30, 40 people, and we got up to around 210. And they were changing often. So what was your perspective? What was it like for you to be there, both kind of as a refugee yourself, but also on the team that was caring for these kids and the refugees that were coming?
Yeah, so as I said, it helped me more than I probably help people, because as I was helping, first of all, I got distracted from everything what was going on in my country. But also, I realized that I was there with my kids and I could take care of my kids, but there were also teenagers who were without their moms, their parents, or like there were people who like actually saw explosions or something, so they had that trauma already. It was interesting to watch how that, nice camp facility with a nice, beautiful chapel for worship and just games and everything turned into a shelter with lots of beds in it, and like people were everywhere, and tons of food was served, like and delicious food, just so the atmosphere was like so caring, so that because guys were caring, and that's what I saw, how faith was like, there was a living faith shown in deeds, because they saw people who were hungry and they fed them, who came with just 2 bags or 1 bag, and there was like a tent full of clothing, and they could come, and we were making jokes that it became their shopping center. Like, so I was encouraged that I was encouraged by that living faith that I saw in work through the ministry of face-to-face and guys who were involved.
Yeah, and I want to clarify, although the camp facility is not face-to-face, it is a partner facility of ours, and only 2 organizations supported what we were doing there in Poland, and that was Faith-to-Faith and another U.S. organization. So beside just finances, there was donations from Faith-to-Faith. Tom made trips. He brought people both to Poland and then later on into Ukraine as we made those journeys. And just to provide a little more context, so at the height of it, we had 210 or 15 people on site. Our max is like 130. We had people sleeping in the chapel, in the conference rooms, in hallways, kids sharing beds with parents or siblings with each other, different families living in the same rooms. Mm-hmm. We had 115 under 18-year-olds throughout the first 5 months without their parents present, and we became their parents. Quite literally, teaching some of them how to shave, the importance of deodorant, why you can't punch people when the girl that you like doesn't like you. Like, real life continues. Life doesn't stop. They're still teenagers. They're still kids. It was little kids running and clinging onto you when planes flew overhead because they thought they were going to drop bombs. We had kids show up with 1 pair of clothes because they left as bombs fell. So I think the blessing of what we were able to do at the refugee center is that we didn't just provide food and shelter, but we cared for people on a spiritual level and on a human level. We had daily activities for kids. We had trips. We went swimming. We went to zoos. We went to the movies. We provided counseling, therapy, medical care. Mm-hmm. So we didn't just provide what most of the humanitarian centers provided. And that's because we weren't just a public humanitarian center, but we were connected to organizations like ours, like Faith-to-Faith, Christians who wanted to provide everything that they could to create as much normalcy as possible. 2 days after our first kids arrived, one of them had a birthday. So we had a birthday party. And then that became our tradition. Yeah. Every birthday for kids or teenagers, we got them a present.
There were cakes.
We had a cake. We had a party.
Yeah. Balloons and everything.
And so we really strived to fulfill every aspect of what we see in Scripture. Yeah. Not just providing physically, but spiritually, emotionally, clothing those who didn't have clothes, feeding those who didn't have food, and sheltering those who didn't have shelter. For the first 3 months, Toma was a key part of that. And then it came time to go home, which Tom and I had the honor and blessing of going on the trip to go home with Toma, because that was also our first trip going into Ukraine. Mm-hmm. The trip in and of itself was very emotional and difficult. We spent 12 hours on the border for something very stupid, but we were there in horrible conditions with basically unusable toilets and almost no food. Yeah. But it was also an immense blessing for me to watch the moment when we did get across the border and Toma reunited with her husband. And he saw his kids and they saw their dad. And to watch as we had been able to provide shelter when it was necessary. Toma worked heavily with us, tirelessly, hours and hours and hours to help care for others. And see that moment of reunification. What was the importance in general for the IDPs of having teams like ours come into the country?
So as you said, it's important to feed people, and it's important to give them clothing and shelter and stuff like that. But what I know from what our IDPs were sharing with us after you guys left, for example, or during your stay, they did care about you being there, just your presence, that you showed your boldness and your love, and you just came to stay with them, to pray for them, to share food with them, because we went to dorms and we drank coffee with people, and we also had Bible home groups where guys stayed with us and shared and prayed for the people. And so they still remember, they still ask oh, how is that your American friend, they don't remember name, sorry, but Kyle, oh yes, Kyle, or when Brian, for example, was also sharing, and he was making fun with old ladies in our Bible group, so they also remember him. And so teens remember trampoline band as they gave concert. And so they remember those moments of bonding they had with you guys, where you just showed love and love of Christ, because you were not afraid to come and share it with them.
That answer is actually something that's interested me a lot as I've talked to different IDPs and refugees, because on the face of it, I think we would believe the most memorable thing would be, okay, we gave them food, we gave them clothes, we gave them humanitarian aid, but actually what they remember is the fact that people show up. The fact that anyone cared to put their life in danger and show up.
They're not just forgotten, or, people do not care. But there are followers of Christ united, no matter where they live. And when there is a need, they come and they take part in it.
And we're coming to a close, but I would like to just share my final few words, and then, Tom, I'm going to give you an opportunity to share a final thought as well. And one of the things for me going into Ukraine, and I've gone in many times before the war, and I've gone in many times after, the thing that has spoke to me the most, beside the resilience of the people, is the reaction of the church. I watched churches transform their sanctuaries into donation centers, into beds, their pews, into cots, their pastors' offices, into bedrooms. I watched churches give everything that they possibly had. And I'm not talking about watched in the past, but currently I'm watching. Churches give everything they have to serve those in need. Whether that is IDPs or soldiers who are on the front and don't have medicine or don't have shoes. The Church of Ukraine has really embodied what it means to be a Christian. They are not looking inward. They're not being self-centered. They're not saying, well, we can't support that because we want a new projector or a new light. None of it seems to matter anymore. Everything that they have, they're utilizing to serve and reach the people who are in the greatest need. And that's across the country. I've been in churches in the east, a mile away from the front lines. I've been in churches in Kherson, half a mile from the bombings, where we stayed in the basement because that's the safest place we could be. I've been to the places where I needed helmets and bulletproof vests and had to have protection at all times. And the reason that we go there isn't to say, look how cool we are, or get some adrenaline. The reason to go there is because there's a need. And I say that I've done that. I've done it a few times. But people like Toma's husband, doing it monthly, others across Ukraine, continue to put their lives in deeper risk than they already are to serve the people who are at the greatest need. And for me, every time I go and every time I leave, that is probably the biggest encouragement, because sometimes the world feels a little bit hopeless. And every time I leave Ukraine, I leave with hope, because I see that in the greatest time of need, the church responded exactly as it should, taking care of the people who had nothing. And so for me, that's been an amazing thing to witness, but also provided me a lot of hope. And so Toma, I want to ask you, if you have a final thought that you would like to share with our team, either how we can be praying, or just what the impact of going through this so far has been, and how it's affected you.
Talking about my faith, I was just thinking about that, how war affected it. And I've noticed two things probably. I'm not better than the other people who lost their homes. It just happened that way. And so now as I have my home, I can serve it, and I can do whatever I can, what God enables me to do, and share the way I can. I can probably not do a lot, but the other thing is that God remains faithful. No matter what happens, bad things may happen, trials may happen, they may come to our lives, but God remains the same. He was the same yesterday, today, and He'll be the same tomorrow. And that's actually the one who we can fully trust. That's what I'm learning and learned and experienced, because He has not departed me. Whether I was on the border for about 3 days in Poland, I coming here everywhere, He's just so faithful and caring, and He remains that. We can be like His hands and His arms, His feet, His voice to help, to love, to heal people. And I just want to leave you guys a verse from Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown Him as you have helped His people and continue to help them. I just want to say that you guys, each of you, as Kyle was sharing yesterday, you've helped the way you could. And I know, being now the part of a team, I know that it takes a lot just to talk to people, to get money to go to Ukraine, just to pay for the tickets. I know that it takes a lot. And I share that with with people in Ukraine that, do not take things for granted. It takes a lot for these guys just to come and to stay with you. And so, God bless you for the love that you've shown and you keep showing to the people of Ukraine, including me here. Thank you.